to call a July meeting of the Suffolk City School Board to order and ask Mr. Copeland if he'll give us the honor of saying the Pledge of Allegiance.
May we stand, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated.
We have certification of the closed meeting.
Resolution of certification of the closed meeting of July 13th, 2017, pursuant to Section 2.2-3712 of the Code of Virginia 1950 as amended.
So move. Second.
Board Member Bouchard.
Yes.
Board Member Brooks-Buck.
Yes.
Board Member Byram.
Yes.
Board Member Mitnick.
Yes.
Vice Chairman Copeland.
Aye.
Chairman Dobransky.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Before we get on with any business, we have a city councilman who would like to recognize Mr. Lou Ward. Would you stand up and be recognized, please? Thank you, Mr. Ward. Thanks for coming here. We have no public speakers on the agenda today. Reports by the superintendent.
Thank you, and good evening, everyone. I'm going to call to the podium Ms. Dr. Suzanne Rice, our Assistant Superintendent for Student Services. Dr. Rice.
Thank you, Dr. Whitney. Good evening. Each month we take this opportunity to share with you and the viewing audience at home some of the excitement that happens in our schools every day and some of the outstanding work of our staff and our students. Tonight's Good News Report is a recognition presentation from the United Way of South Hampton Roads. I'd like to call up Ms. Rakita Furlow to share the exciting information with you.
And I'm from the United Way of Southampton Roads. I'm here to present the Suffolk School Board with a plaque that celebrates the $46,996 raised during last year's combined charity campaign. We count on you to educate our children, but you all do so much more than that. Last year, your teachers contributed $31,640, and the students, your students, also gave an additional $15,326. Over the past 6 years, your teachers and students have given over $268,000 to benefit the local Suffolk community. That is incredible.
It is.
We're so grateful to partner with Suffolk Public Schools to implement the United for Children initiative, which is currently in its second year. As of today, there are 900 Suffolk students enrolled in the LEAP and Launch programs that provide fun educational opportunities for students. This is just one of the many opportunities that your generosity is able to provide. On behalf of a grateful community, thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to say thank you to the United Way for partnering with us. We certainly couldn't have the LEAP and Launch program as effectively run as it is without your support. And also thanks to our students and staff for participating in this campaign and raising the amount of money that they did raise. Thank you. Our next item on the reports by superintendent is the Student Early Drop-Off Program. You may recall a few years ago when we changed our start times, we offered free early morning drop-off for our parents of our elementary students. That has been a challenge, and you may recall also during the spring of last school year, we had several teacher input meetings and a number of items came to our attention as far as some of the things that are additional stressors for our teachers and challenges for our schools as well. Dr. Harrison, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, will share with you a proposal that we would like to move towards as far as how we might move away from this in the near future. Dr. Harrison.
Thank you, Dr. Whitney. Good evening, Chairman Dobransky, board members. As Dr. Whitney stated, I want to share with you this evening just an update on our early drop-off program and our proposal for the 2017-18 school year. As you may recall, in the 2013-14 school year, we began offering our complimentary early drop-off program in our elementary schools. In the current program, registered parents may drop their children off as early as 20 to 35 minutes prior to the regular drop-off time for our elementary schools. And the original intent behind this particular initiative was really to assist parents with the transition during that time to a later start time for our elementary schools. Since that time, we have as Dr. Whitney shared, recently received feedback from teachers. This came up actually several times during our feedback sessions with teachers and administrators regarding this as sort of an added workload for teachers. In many of our schools, it's become an additional duty where teachers on a rotational basis may come in earlier than normal to provide support and to help assist with monitoring and taking care of students early in the morning. We also have teacher assistants that participate in assisting with the morning program as well, and it varies from school to school. Some schools have teachers and teacher assistants working in the early morning program. Some schools have just teacher assistants. And certainly when teacher assistants are involved in particular, that's less time that they're available to work during the school day because they have a maximum number of hours that they can work each week. And so this impacts both teacher workload and student learning. I wanted to give you a sense of the participation levels at each of our schools. So as you can see here, our highest number of students registered is at Booker T. Washington Elementary School, where we have 100 students registered. And these numbers fluctuate considerably. So in some cases, we have a high number of students registered and high daily attendance. And those numbers are, again, it varies from school to school. But at Booker T, they might have about 60 students who attend on a regular basis, whereas Creekside has about 90 students registered, and they have a pretty high number of students who actually participate in the early morning drop-off program. And again, all the way down to as few as 12 students registered at Oakland, and even at Driver, where they have about 34 students registered, only about 10 attend on a regular basis. So our recommendation is that we phase out our early drop-off program begin to phase it out this school year. So beginning this school year, we are proposing a reduction in the number of spaces in the program and limiting the program to currently enrolled families, and applications for new families would not be accepted at this time. And then moving into the 2018-19 school year, eliminating the program at all schools.
If you could go back to that slide, one of the things I want to point out, the purpose of this is we want to work with families and give them time to plan accordingly. You'll see a slide in the very near future of the programs that are offered, but they do cost. But it is a matter of suggesting that this is where we're leading and this is what we'd like to do so that parents can be prepared and come up with that alternative plan.
So again, for the 2017-18 school year, we are proposing limiting the number of spaces in the program, and this would vary from school to school, and we'd work with principals to determine the number of spaces available based on the amount of staffing that they have available to monitor students in the morning. Again, new families would not be admitted, and that's specifically because we're phasing the program out. We felt like it would, as we transition, it would not be appropriate to take on new families, knowing that we would not be offering it at all next school year. And parents would, moving forward, we would ask in the application process for this school year, we would ask parents to provide at least some verification that the early drop-off is needed due to their work schedules, and that we would make a concerted effort to also really promote the partner programs in our schools. All of our schools have YMCA early drop-off or before care programs and/or before care programs sponsored by Parks and Recreation, and I'll share those details as well. I wanted you to also see the schedule and what this looks like. So elementary A school start time, elementary A schools begin at 9:20 a.m., elementary B schools begin at 9:35 a.m. Regular drop-off at these schools, so at elementary A schools, it's 8:50 a.m. that parents can drop off, and that's the regular drop-off time, and that would continue, and 9:05 at elementary B schools, and that would continue. But what we're looking at discontinuing would be the early drop-off time in the center of the table. So that would be the change that we would be proposing. And again, this would be for the 2018-19 school year. For this school year, as I stated earlier, we would continue this for families that are currently enrolled. And again, we do have partnerships, and we're continually working with our partners to try to offer options to our families, particularly those who might need financial assistance and In particular, I know that the YMCA has a tuition assistance program for families who qualify for tuition assistance and apply for that. They could qualify for as much as 50% of a discount in the tuition in the WISE program. They are also willing to offer fee waivers for registration, for example, for families who are currently enrolled in our program, if they decide to enroll in the Y program. So those are just some examples, but we would be referring our parents to our to our partners to apply for those programs and to learn more about the different options and opportunities in terms of tuition assistance that those programs offer. And again, here's a slide. This slide just gives you a snapshot of the different programs offered in the schools, and you can see here that in some schools, both the YMCA and Parks and Rec offer before care programs, and in some schools, for example, the Y is in all but 2 of our elementary schools, and even though they don't have a program at Oakland, for example, they do provide transportation from the YMCA to Oakland. Actually, Booker T is the only school where the Y does not have a program operating. And then Parks and Rec is at Booker T, and they have a large number of students who attend the program there, located in the Booker T Parks and Recreation Center. So our next steps would be sending out letters, mailing letters home to parents, notifying them of the change, and we would be mailing letters to all parents, not just the parents who are currently enrolled, because we would want to communicate to all families that this change is occurring. And then principals would include applications for currently enrolled families, and we would encourage families to submit their applications by August 18th so that we could begin to plan and ensure that we have the appropriate amount of staff on hand to take care of students who would come for early drop-off, who would participate in the early drop-off program. Also, principals will send out a school message through our school messenger system notifying families of the change. So again, just as a recap, we would reduce the number of spaces in the early drop-off program. We would only admit currently enrolled families in the program, and participation would really be, we would be asking families to demonstrate in their application that they are dropping off in the complimentary early drop-off program due to a need for childcare based on reporting to work. Also, we're again going to work with our partner organizations, the YMCA and Parks and Recreation in particular, to ensure that families have all the information they need about other alternatives that are provided for before care. And most of those programs actually are much longer. Most of them start as early as 6 or 6:30 a.m. For parents who need that as an option. So that concludes the presentation. I'd love to open it up now to any questions you might have
Questions or
regarding this
comments?
proposal.
The only question I have is, we started doing this when we changed the bus schedule. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
That is correct.
When we changed the bus schedule to make sure that parents would not be without some options.
Right.
We changed the bus. So now that we we'll start with something that we believe is going to be constant next year.
The intent was, you may recall, we changed the bus schedule 1 year, and then the very next year we changed it again.
Right.
And folks had adapted, some families had adapted their work schedule. So the thought was, as opposed to having to go back to their employer and try to adjust their schedule, we would offer this.
Right.
But the thought is, we've had time to make, they have had time to make additional or alternative arrangements, as well as making certain that we have some type of paid program in each of our schools. Thank you.
Very much.
The last item for reports by the superintendent is on pages 7 through 8, calendar of special events. And the only thing I want to point out, as you well know, the VSBA Conference on Education is next week on July 18th. We do have a high school summer school graduation on August 2nd at 6 p.m. at Lakeland. New teacher breakfast, August 21st. Convocation, we have it every other year. This is the year we'll be having it August 24th. And, of course, the first day of school, September 5th. On the other side, you have several dates for the year, but we'll be adding, obviously, to this calendar as the year progresses. And that concludes the superintendent's report, Mr. Chair.
I'd like to refer the board members to the consent agenda and see if anything needs to be moved for action. Further action, I should say.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
If board members will please vote on their electronic voting board, please. Mr. Copeland? If you'll vote on the electronic voting board, please. Motion carried.
Move to new business, rescheduling of the August 10th meeting by the school board to August 17th. Any problem with that here?
The rationale behind that is I'd like for that to serve as our vision planning meeting, traditionally referred to as our retreat. And I feel during this time we will have a preliminary test scores back. I know that oftentimes drives our retreat, but that's the appropriate time or our best time that we feel would be available for the retreat, August 17th.
What day of the week is that? What day of the week is that?
Thursday.
That's a Thursday?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we can send you the time and location, but generally I think we have started at 9 o'clock. Well, to be.
And said your accreditation proposal.
That was an action item as far as that.
Okay, so that would be August the 17th instead of the second Thursday?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. All right, I move that we accept that date, August 17th, for the retreat and move the school board date to that date.
Second.
That for moving the August regular meeting and scheduling the retreat at the same date.
Correct.
Board members will please vote, please. Motion carried.
Advanced accreditation proposal.
I'm going to call back to the podium Dr. Latoya Harrison, our Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction. You may recall years ago, several years ago, we began the Advanced Ed SACS-CASI accreditation process. And it's been a very good process because of the fact that it looked at more than just test scores when determining whether or not a school met full accreditation. With the state's review of their accreditation process and proposing changes with their accreditation process, in addition to the new profile of the Virginia graduate, we feel like that can serve the purpose that SACS or Advanced Ed has served in the past. Dr. Harrison is going to share with you what our proposal is as far as moving forward. Dr. Harrison.
Good evening again. So, as Dr. Whitney shared, we are proposing making some changes to the options that we have with Advanced Ed in terms of our accreditation with them. So the goal of Advanced Ed, as you're aware, is to help schools continuously improve. And this involves an in-depth review by a team, an external review team. And our last accreditation review actually took place in 2007, and our Advanced Ed accreditation, our current accreditation, expires June 30th, 2018. Advanced Ed has really updated their process quite a bit in recent years, and they offer various options to school divisions. And I wanted to highlight a few of those options for you here on this particular slide. In three of the options, there are more options, but the three that were most relevant to our division were their Advanced Ed Improvement Network, the division level accreditation, which is what we currently have, and then the accreditation for just certain schools within a division. And so as you see here, there are lots of different benefits and sort of different options that they provide and resources that are provided with the various options. And so for us with the division level accreditation, we receive pretty much all of the benefits of the Advanced Ed accreditation process, from the annual membership with the continuous improvement tools to access to workshops and conferences that they provide, and then, of course, most importantly, the seal of accreditation after we go through the external review process. And typically, it's about a 5-year review cycle. They've made some changes to that, but where that varies slightly now based on how districts perform or how they are evaluated during the external review process. I also wanted to highlight for you the cost comparison between the various options that are offered. So the annual cost, for example, for just the Advanced Ed Improvement Network, and keep in mind the Improvement Network, as I just go back to this previous slide for just a second here, that is not an accreditation process. That actually just gives divisions a seal of improvement and access to all of the Advanced Ed accreditation tools, but it does not provide an actual accreditation seal. So that option typically costs about $1,500 per school plus an additional cost of $1,500 for the division. So annually, that's about $28,000, $29,000 a year. Our current division level accreditation review process that we currently are involved with Advanced Ed is about $900 per school and an additional cost of $900 for the division. So that's an annual cost of about $17,000 a year. And then with the high school only accreditation, which is what I will be proposing in just a moment, that would be $900 just for each high school, which would amount to about $2,700 per year. And then you see I included in the chart some additional costs, and these are costs that are incurred in the year that our school division would participate in the external review. And that includes the cost of hotel, meals, mileage, et cetera, for the reviewers that come and actually spend time in our schools and conduct the external review. And then there's also a review fee, which at this point is still to be determined with Advanced Ed. So over the course of about 5 years, at the very bottom of the table here, you see where I've highlighted the comparison. It would cost about $142,000 for the first option, currently about $88,000 over a 5-year period for the second option, which is what we currently have, and about $22,000 for the third option. And that's, again, minus the review fee, which is still to be determined. So our recommendation this evening, that is in light of changes that are happening with our state's accountability system and the development of the profile of a Virginia graduate, we're proposing discontinuing the division level review through Advanced Ed and only moving forward with the high school review process, where our 3 high schools would still participate in Advanced Ed, but we would not continue to have a division level Advanced Ed review. And again, keeping in mind the goal of Advanced Ed is continuous improvement, and it also provides sort of an external quality assurance review for our division. But we also realize that as our state is moving in the direction of a more comprehensive accountability system and the profile of a Virginia graduate, that this will indeed serve much of the same purpose. Our state, as they've gone out and gained feedback from stakeholders, they've determined that graduates of Virginia high schools really need to have what you've heard referred to many times as the 5 C's. So critical thinking skills, creative thinking, communication, collaboration, and citizenship. Those are the things that our graduates need to have in order to be life ready when they finish a high school in the state of Virginia. And that is essentially the core principle of the profile of a Virginia graduate. And so that profile really describes the knowledge, skills, and experiences that our students need to have when they graduate from our schools to be ready to compete in the world. And again, just highlighting some of the changes as our state is moving in this direction. There will be an increased focus on career exposure, career exploration and career planning at every level, from the elementary grades through the middle grades, high school, et cetera. And there's always this sort of the intersection of, you see here in the chart, of content knowledge, workplace skills, career planning, and community and civic responsibility. So really those are sort of the 4 core areas of focus in this new profile of a Virginia graduate. Again, there's also, sort of congruent with that, is the revised Virginia accountability system. And in this revised system, again, there's a more comprehensive picture of a school that the state will be taking. And I'll share with you in just a second some snapshots of, and again, these are all in draft form and are proposed by the state. This has not gone into effect yet, but this is the direction that our state is moving in. And again, a drive for continuous improvement of schools, and then providing technical assistance to schools and providing resources to schools. So here's a snapshot of what the new accountability system will look like. Our schools will be rated either accredited with conditions, or accreditation denied. And essentially, if a school if they meet the standards if they're at level 1 or level 2 in any of the various areas, this is like a snapshot of a sample accountability report card, if you will, for a school. And you have it with you, have it in your books. Okay, great, the screen came back up. So if a school is at level 1 or 2 in all of these areas, then they would receive a designation of fully accredited. Whereas in sample 2, in the chart here, you see that this particular school, North High School, is at level 1 and 2 in most areas, but they were at level 3 in college and career readiness. So that would be an example of a school receiving the rating of accredited with conditions. And so as our state is moving in this direction with a more comprehensive accountability system and accreditation system, we really feel like this will meet our needs as a division, and the division level review through Advanced Ed will no longer be needed with all of our schools. We'd like to continue with our high schools because we do see there might be some cases where there could be a need to have that outside additional accreditation review at the high school level, but it's not as necessary at all the other levels. And so moving forward, we would like to continue with just the Advanced Ed accreditation for our 3 high schools.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
The people who provide these reviews, are they the state of Virginia, or are they a private company, or what is the organization that provides this service?
Advanced Ed is the organization, and they actually will have members of other school divisions. So for example, we might have principals or division leaders from our division participate on an external review in another school division. And all of those people are trained in the accreditation process, are familiar with all of the tools that Advanced Ed offers, but usually it's a review by your peers, by peers who are doing it through Advanced Ed.
I remember that. I was just wondering, who set up that program? The state or a company, or who set it up?
It is Advanced Ed. That is the company. Advanced Ed actually
It's
has
a private company.
Yes, an executive
Okay.
director who
Okay.
facilitates it, schedules it, does the training, and then they also have a board. I served on the state board for about 6 years. That's the governing body of Advanced Ed for the state of Virginia, but it's a national program as well.
Is it a nonprofit organization? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm simply not.
I can find out, though.
I was just curious to know whether it was, a private organization or.
And whenever you talk about not having to work towards a particular benchmark, it oftentimes one can say, well, are you lowering your expectations? And I'd be quick to say no. And the reason I say no is because we do some of the same types of reviews internally, but we also, I think, at this stage in the game, the state of Virginia there's a lot of collaboration that goes on among school divisions. In fact, we participate in an annual conference that I think you all were invited to attend as well. So I think that it's not a matter of lowering expectations, it's a matter of using the tools and using the systems that we have in place that are no cost to us and that can meet the same benchmark, but also measure the same types of things that need to be measured, which is more than just test scores.
I wasn't suggesting that it was, I was not even thinking that we would lower, I was just curious to know what is the credibility of such a company as this? I mean, does it give you bragging rights that you subscribe? I mean, that's...
It is an accreditation process, so yes, it does look good to say you're accredited by Advanced Ed. It is nonprofit, we did determine that. It is a nonprofit organization, but it does, I think when we moved district-wide, you may recall, was when many school divisions were struggling to have their schools fully accredited, and they wanted to have them accredited to say, we may not have met the state benchmark as far as being fully accredited, whether it's a school or a school division, but this is another accreditation process that we've gone through that's looking at more of the processes versus just the end product of test scores.
Is this the same thing as the Southern Association?
Yes, sir.
Okay, it's the same program then? Right?
Yes, yes.
It's the Southern Association.
It makes good sense.
Is there,
So we need a motion. Oh, I'm sorry.
what's the rationale behind keeping our high schools in the program?
So the rationale there is that essentially we were thinking at the high school level that there's more of a possibility that a high school student might need to validate that they've graduated from an accredited high school. So in the event that it gives a second layer of opportunity for schools to gain that accreditation, particularly at the high school level. So you have the state accountability system provides one option for accreditation as well as the possibility of that for advanced ed. And we particularly think about if a student were to apply to a university outside of the country where they might have to have some sort of proof of graduating from a fully accredited high school, we would have both options for our schools to have that accreditation seal.
Does this require any additional work for the faculty and staff at a high school than other schools?
It would typically, I mean, this is a process that we've gone through on a 5-year cycle, and so it's a process that our school division is familiar with. It does require some additional work, but what we plan to do with this process is align it with our other reviews. So, and this would take the place in the year that they do the accreditation review. This would take the place of the internal reviews that we would normally do. So, rather than having 2 reviews, they would just have the advanced ed accreditation review in that year.
Everything included in the school improvement plan that would be required by advanced ed?
So, and advanced ed they've added a lot of flexibility in their new design, if you will, where we actually can utilize a lot of the same tools that we already have in place. So it doesn't necessarily require us to even utilize a whole new set of systems and tools to even implement to go through the accreditation process.
I'm sorry for interrupting. If I may add, it would not result in having 2 separate plans. In fact, we did that years ago because we found in some cases we had a federal Title I plan, we had the SACS plan, and we had the school improvement plan, and it just became too much. And so we've done a good job at trying to combine all of the plans so that there's one plan that includes some of the required components of the advanced ed as well as our school improvement plan in the states.
Thank you.
So the motion needed is to move from the full division to the high schools.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to move that we accept the proposal by the superintendent to move from the division level accreditation to accrediting our high schools.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
We have no public speakers on non-agenda topics at all, is that correct? Okay. Going to business by board members. Let's start with Mr. Mitnick.
Thank you, Dr. Dobransky. The only thing I'd like to say is that I'd like to congratulate the staff of LEAP over at Hill Point Elementary School, and they're turning all of our summer school students into superheroes, which is their theme. And I have had the opportunity to volunteer in one of the fifth grade classrooms, and I enjoyed it. And they are really keeping the kids on task and moving them forward so that hopefully they will be progressing to their next grade level.
I just want to say I am excited, really excited, as I go past the Colonel Fred Cherry Middle School. It's really coming together, and it's going to be massive and just beautiful. And as always, I'd like to thank teachers and staff for a wonderful school year, another one, and we just look forward to the next step.
I don't have anything this time.
I'd like to congratulate the GED people who received their certificates the other day at Lakeland. It was at Lakeland. Yeah, it was at Lakeland.
I don't have anything else at this time. We'll go ahead into informational items. Board members, if you look at the informational items there and see if anything needs explanation. Action and a closed meeting personnel report, Mr. Copeland.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
Pupil personnel report.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the pupil personnel reports as presented.
Second.
Board members will please vote. Motion carried.
No further business to come before this board. I declare this meeting adjourned. Everybody have a safe trip home. Thank you for coming tonight.